think this is a really normal part of the clinical trial process, and they're having to tweak what they're doing to get the shot to perform better, possibly upping the dosage of it. And so I think, it means that we have these timelines that in everyone's head they're thinking, okay, I might get this shot sometime in the spring, but there's possibility that gets pushed back a little bit, and I think it means people's expectations should be flexible. That some of these vaccines are not going to come online the second that we're thinking they are right now, but they are still working towards that goal of getting into the shots in people's arms.
A good perspective, particularly because the markets are looking for that vaccination relief. And Bloomberg, thank you very much. Well, Ken Moelis, founder, chairman, and CEO of Moelis & Company, he says the pandemic has changed everything, including the role of travel in doing business. He spoke exclusively to Eric Schatzker on Bloomberg Front Row.
I didn't even know Zoom existed until March 15th. And I don't think I'm overstating that. I think my first reaction on March 15th was, what's Zoom? So yes, I never would have thought this. Again, when I say COVID changes everything, that's one of the things that changes. I think we all woke up, a lot of people woke up and said, wow, you mean we could have done this without flying 20 hours and drafting a document in a room together? We always could have done it this way. I really think this is a moment of enlightenment on certain parts of travel. It's also a moment where we remember that other parts of travel are fantastic. Having dinner with a client or your partner or your family is not replaceable. I think we'll go back to that, but I think some parts of this, I'm stunned at how I have a meeting that I was supposed to be at this week in the Middle East. I'm on the West Coast. That's a full week for me. It's sort of 20 hours, give or take, to get over. You need to go to sleep once before you have a meeting, and then you need to come back. That's a week. And Eric, I would have described that to you as a great week if the meeting was good. I would have said, what'd you do last week? I had a great week. I flew all that. We had a great meeting. Well, that meeting will be over in 1 hour, and I'll be back right here in my chair ready for the next meeting. So, yeah, I've never seen anything that's increased efficiency more, and I never would have guessed it. You're 100% right.
Can those efficiencies last beyond the pandemic?
Yeah, I think they will. I think we've all realized some parts of what we did are just not efficient, and they're expensive. And so I think we'll cut out, not all of them. 1 out of 3 meetings will get cut out, maybe 1 out of 2 reasons for travel. But then again, maybe you'll fill those in by traveling and having more relationship-based meetings or family opportunities. I'm not saying travel might be for different reasons, because I really do miss having a meal and having a relationship-based eye-to-eye meeting with a client. I mean, I miss it as much with my family, but we are talking business, so I'm focusing on that. That's a real missing element, and I know a lot of my fellow partners and everybody in the firm's missing human contact, but there's a lot that can be done without it.
Ken Moelis, founder and chairman and CEO, of course, of Moelis & Company, speaking exclusively with Bloomberg's Eric Schatzker on Front Row. Interesting, as we were listening to Ken there, Alex, Scott Kirby of United out in Chicago, talking about the fact that he sees the crisis lasting another 9 to 15 months. He says air travel has clearly softened. It's interesting. Ken just talked there about you maybe you still make a whole bunch of meetings, but maybe every other one. That takes out a ton of business travel, and it's business travel at the front end of the plane that is the profitable bit of putting that plane in the air.
Yeah, I also wonder what Scott Kirby was talking about in terms of after those 15 months, what is that? Like, is it pre-pandemic? Is it a whole different type of structure for the airline industry? I mean, currently it feels like they're flying a lot of vaccines, so they're more of a cargo holder now than shuttling over passengers.
These airlines are flying a lot of cargo. Every airline CEO I talk to at the moment, it's cargo that's keeping us going. And maybe you just see more of that, and that they slim down to fit that new narrative. maybe the leisure side of the business does a little bit better. That potentially could benefit carriers like JetBlue a little bit more. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I think is going to change here, and certainly the structure of these businesses is going to feel very different, I think, particularly if Ken's right and you see the front end of the plane disappearing.
100%.
It's probably going to have an impact on the climate as well, which is something else that you want to think about too. And it was interesting to kind of listen to what EU leaders were talking about. They're getting much tougher on their climate goals, and I think we're going to hear like a lot more about that to see what happens here. We just hit the 5-year anniversary, Alex, of the Paris Climate Accord. That obviously a huge event. We're going to have more on that in just a moment. Jeffrey Sachs, Columbia University Center for Sustainable Development Director. He's going to be joining us to talk all about this. This is Bloomberg.
From New York, I'm Alex Steele with Guy Johnson in London. This is Bloomberg Markets. European Union leaders agree to more aggressive cuts in greenhouse gas emissions over the next decade, and this comes on the 5-year anniversary of the Paris Agreements adopted by 196 nations addressing climate change. Joining us now for the step forward, Jeffrey Sachs, Columbia University Professor of Sustainable Development. It's really good to talk to you on this. The EU deal moving forward with that recovery fund, a lot of that is going to go into climate initiatives. How fast do you think that's going to be deployed, and in what sectors does it make the most sense?
I think we're seeing finally the breakthrough worldwide to reach net zero emissions, sometimes called climate neutrality, no later than mid-century. Europe is leading that with the European Green Deal, but they're not alone. Korea, Japan, Canada, China, though they say before 2060 rather than at 2050, have all committed to reach net zero by mid-century. This is also the Biden plan, and he will introduce that as soon as he becomes president in January. So what we're seeing is a worldwide commitment